Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Book 2 of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
Okay.
And it's titled Onward and Internal Resolve.
Yeah.
I got to say, going from the thankfulness of Book 1 to this feels like stepping onto a battlefield.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, book one was Marcus kind of reflecting on all the good things in his life, and then book two is where he really gets into like the nitty-gritty of Stoic practice.
Yeah. It's like he's done with the pregame pep talk,
Yeah.
and now it's time to like face some serious philosophical opponents.
Right.
And I'm already feeling a bit intimidated. The first principle he throws at us is accepting what you cannot control.
Right.
But how can that lead to anything other than feeling powerless?
Well, and that's where Stoicism, I think, gets really interesting because it's not about just passively accepting everything that life throws at us,
Yeah.
but it's about recognizing that we often waste energy stressing over things that we simply can't change.
Right.
So, like, think about, does worrying about the weather actually change anything?
I guess not. But what about things that do directly impact us, like other people's opinions?
Sure.
Those could be hurtful, right?
Absolutely. But from a Stoic perspective, even those opinions are ultimately outside of our control.
Okay.
We can't force someone to like us or agree with us.
Right.
What we can control is how we react to those opinions.
So it's not about pretending those things don't bother us, but rather just choosing how we respond to them.
Exactly. And this is where the idea of focusing on our internal judgments comes in.
Okay.
The Stoics believe that external events are neutral.
Okay.
It's our judgments about those events that create our emotional responses.
Wait, hold on. How can external events be neutral? If someone cuts me off in traffic, that's objectively a negative event, right?
Well, so consider this. The event itself is simply a car moving in front of yours.
Right.
It's your judgment, like this person is a terrible driver, they ruined my day.
Yeah.
That creates the negative feeling.
So Stoicism is saying that our judgments, our interpretations of the world are what actually determine our experience.
Precisely. And that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Because it means that we have a choice. We can choose to see that traffic incident as a minor inconvenience
Right.
or as a personal attack.
So we become emperors of our own minds, choosing our reactions rather than letting the outside world dictate them.
I love that. You're getting at the heart of Stoicism.
Okay.
It's about taking responsibility for our inner world, but it's not just about passive acceptance. It's about taking action even when it's hard.
And that brings us to the next point, right? This idea of getting out of bed and doing good even when we'd rather stay under the covers.
Yes, and remember, Marcus Aurelius wasn't some armchair philosopher. He
Right.
was an emperor with immense responsibilities. Yet he constantly reminded himself and us that we're here to fulfill our purpose.
I'm thinking of that line about getting out of bed at dawn. When you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for?
Yeah.
It seems he's saying that even getting out of bed can be an act of courage.
It's about pushing through that initial resistance and stepping into the arena of life, ready to face whatever comes our way.
Yeah.
Which leads us to another key principle, aligning our actions with reason and nature.
Now, the Marcus Aurelius talks about nature. He's not talking about going for a hike in the woods, is he?
Not exactly. It's a much broader concept.
Okay.
In Stoicism, nature refers to the natural order of the universe, the interconnectedness of all things, and the inherent rationality of human beings.
So living in accordance with nature means something like acting in a way that's rational,
Yeah,
that promotes harmony both within ourselves and with the world around us.
you're getting it. It's about understanding our place in the grand scheme of things and acting in a way that benefits both ourselves and the larger whole.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we actually know if our actions are in accordance with nature? It seems pretty abstract.
Well, it requires constant self-reflection.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, is this action reasonable? Is it virtuous? Does it contribute to the well-being of myself and others? For instance, is yelling at a customer service representative because your online order is wrong really in line with that?
Probably not. And spending hours on social media comparing myself to others and getting caught up in the drama,
Right.
that doesn't feel very rational or harmonious either.
Those are great examples. So Stoicism really encourages us to step back and examine our motivations to see if our actions align with our best selves and with the natural order of things.
This is starting to make sense, but I have to be honest, it sounds incredibly difficult to put into practice.
It absolutely is. And that's why Marcus Aurelius had to write himself and us a whole book about it.
Right.
These are age-old human struggles,
Yeah.
and Stoicism offers a framework for navigating them. To really bring these principles to life, maybe we should look at some specific examples and quotes from Book 2.
Okay.
What stands out to you?
Well, one that comes to mind is this idea of anticipating challenges.
Okay.
Marcus Aurelius suggests actually starting the day by visualizing all the potential negative things we might encounter.
He does. He writes, Begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness, all of them due to the offender's ignorance of what is good and evil.
Wow.
Doesn't that sound a bit pessimistic?
It does, but I'm guessing there's a method to this madness.
Absolutely. By mentally preparing for these inevitable frustrations, we're less likely to be thrown off balance by them.
It's all putting on our philosophical armor before we even step out the door.
Yeah.
So it's not about expecting the worst, but acknowledging that challenges are a part of life and being mentally prepared.
Precisely. It's about cultivating that inner strength, that internal resolve to face whatever the day may bring.
And this leads us to another powerful quote from Book 2. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
That's the core of Stoicism, isn't it?
Yeah,
We can't control the external world, the traffic jams, the spilt coffee, the opinions of others.
right,
But we can control our inner world, our thoughts, judgments, reactions.
right.
And that's where true power lies.
It's about becoming masters of our inner domain, rather than trying to control the uncontrollable chaos of the outer world.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from what we can control to what we can.
Yeah.
And in doing so, we discover a source of strength and resilience within ourselves.
And finally, let's revisit this idea of aligning our actions with nature, specifically the quote about cosmic harmony. Everything harmonizes with me, which is harmonious for thee, O universe. Nothing for me is too early nor too late, which is in season for thee. It's a beautiful passage, but also a bit detached from the realities of daily life.
It can seem that way, but think of it this way. It's not about ignoring responsibilities or pretending that difficulties don't exist.
Yeah.
Rather, it's about finding peace and perspective within the larger scheme of things.
Okay.
It's recognizing that even our struggles have a place in the grand tapestry of the universe.
I see what you mean. It's about finding that sense of calm and acceptance even amidst the chaos.
Right.
This Stoic mindset could be incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
Not denying the challenges of life, but approaching them with reason and acceptance. Where do we even begin with integrating these principles into our lives?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore further as we continue our deep dive.
Okay,
But for now, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned from Book 2 so far.
so we've uncovered these powerful Stoic principles from Book 2.
Right.
But I think the real challenge is putting them into practice
Yeah.
in our everyday lives. Any advice from our resident Stoic expert?
Well, one practical piece of advice that Marcus Aurelius gives is to incorporate a morning reflection into your routine.
Like a pregame pep talk for the soul,
Exactly.
but a Stoic style.
Exactly. So instead of hitting the snooze button and dreading the day, you take just a few minutes to kind of center yourself,
Right.
reflect on your goals, your values, and just remind yourself of your commitment to living virtuously.
So it's about setting an intention for the day, but with a Stoic twist. I like that. What about those moments when we're faced with things we can't control?
Right.
How do we actually apply that principle in real life?
Well, think about it this way. You're stuck in traffic.
Okay.
Instead of getting frustrated,
Yeah,
take a deep breath and remind yourself that you can't control the traffic flow.
right,
What you can control is your reaction.
right.
Maybe use that time productively, listen to an audiobook, or just practice some mindfulness.
It's about choosing our battles, focusing our energy on what truly matters,
Yeah,
and letting go of things that we can't change.
you got it. Now, let's say someone cuts you off in traffic.
Okay?
You can choose to be angry, but will that change the situation?
Yeah.
Maybe they're having an emergency or are just a bad driver. A different judgment might lead to less frustration.
So it's not about suppressing our emotions, but understanding where they come from
Right.
and choosing a more helpful response.
Exactly. And remember, Stoicism is not about being an emotionless robot.
Okay.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
And it's okay to slip up sometimes. The important thing is to keep practicing and growing.
It's about progress, not perfection. Is there a way to gauge how we're doing on this Stoic journey?
That's a great question. And the answer may surprise you. It's not about external achievements or accolades.
Okay.
It's about that sense of inner peace, tranquility, and resilience that you cultivate.
So not about becoming a Roman emperor or conquering vast territories,
Right.
but rather about conquering our inner turmoil.
You nailed it. It's about becoming the best version of ourselves, living in harmony with reason and the natural order of the universe.
I love that the Stoics believe virtue was its own reward.
Yes.
But it still seems daunting. Any encouragement for those of us just starting out?
You're not alone. Remember, there's a whole community of Stoic practitioners, both ancient and modern.
Great.
We can learn from each other, share experiences, and find support on this journey.
That's the beauty of philosophy, isn't it? A shared human pursuit of wisdom and meaning.
Absolutely.
and it connects us across time and cultures.
As we keep diving into meditations, we'll uncover more and more Stoic insights that can help us navigate modern life. But for now, let's pause and reflect on what we've learned from Book 2.
It's a lot to digest. We've explored accepting what we can't control, focusing on our internal judgments, stepping up to do good, even when challenging and aligning our actions with reason and nature.
Right.
All incredibly empowering, but I imagine putting it all into practice is a whole other challenge. How do we bridge that gap?
Well, think back to what we discussed about morning reflection.
Okay.
Could you commit to even 5 minutes each morning to set your Stoic intentions for the day?
I think I could, but what about those unexpected challenges that pop up throughout the day?
That's where those principles about controlling your judgments come in.
Okay.
Remember the traffic example? Next time you're faced with a frustrating situation, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Try to objectively assess what happened and choose your response rather than simply reacting.
So it's about creating that space between the stimulus and our response, that pause where we can apply our Stoic principles.
You got it. And remember, Stoicism is a lifelong practice, not a quick fix.
Right.
There will be days when you nail it and days when you completely forget everything Marcus Aurelius ever said. And that's okay.
It's about progress, not perfection. So if we find ourselves slipping back into old habits, what should we do?
Don't beat yourself up. Just acknowledge it and gently steer yourself back on course. Each time you catch yourself reacting in a way that doesn't align with your Stoic principles, consider it an opportunity to learn and grow.
Like a little course correction on our Stoic journey. What about this concept of aligning our actions with reason and nature?
Right.
How can we bring that abstract idea into our daily lives?
Start by examining your actions and motivations.
Okay.
Ask yourself if your choices align with your values, if they contribute to your well-being and the well-being of others.
Right.
If you're spending hours mindlessly scrolling through social media, is that truly serving you?
Yeah.
Is it in line with your rational and social nature?
I see what you mean. It's about being more mindful and intentional with our choices.
Yes.
Asking ourselves if they're leading us toward a life of virtue.
Exactly. And remember, virtue doesn't have to mean grand gestures.
Right.
It can be found in the small, everyday choices we make.
Right.
Choosing patience over anger, kindness over indifference, courage over fear, these are all acts of virtue.
So living a Stoic life isn't about becoming some kind of superhuman moral exemplar. It's about making conscious choices, moment by moment, that align with our values and contribute to our overall well-being. It's about striving to be a little bit better each day.
Beautifully said. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. Connect with other Stoic practitioners, read more about the philosophy, and keep those Stoic principles at the forefront of your mind.
It's like we're building our own personal philosophical toolkit, equipped with the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics. And just like any tool, it takes practice to use it effectively.
Yeah.
But I think the results are worth the effort.
I agree. The more we practice these principles, the more we cultivate that inner peace and resilience that Marcus Aurelius spoke of. And that's a reward worth striving for. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's shift gears a bit and explore some more specific quotes and passages from Book 2. There's one in particular that I think is particularly relevant to our modern lives.
You mentioned a quote from Book 2 that feels especially relevant today. What is it?
Yeah, Marcus Aurelius writes, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth."
Whoa, that's a powerful statement, especially today when we're like bombarded with information from all sides.
Right.
It's like he's urging us to be critical thinkers, to question everything and not just blindly accept what we see or hear.
Exactly. Think about how much information we consume daily, from news to social media to conversations.
Right.
It's easy to forget that it's all filtered through someone else's lens, their experiences, their biases.
It's like we're constantly looking at the world through someone else's glasses. We need to develop that ability to step back and evaluate information objectively,
Yeah.
considering different viewpoints before forming our own opinions. How can we do that?
Well, it starts with recognizing our own biases.
Right.
We all have them.
Right.
It's human nature, but once we're aware of them, we can start to challenge our assumptions and become more open to different perspectives.
It's like stepping outside our echo chambers and engaging with the world with genuine curiosity and an open mind.
Yeah.
But it's not about becoming cynical or distrusting everything, right?
Right. It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism, a willingness to question, investigate, and seek out multiple sources of information before forming judgments.
So becoming active participants in shaping our beliefs, not just passive consumers of whatever's thrown at us.
Exactly. And Stoicism can be incredibly helpful here.
Okay.
It provides a framework for critical thinking, for evaluating information objectively, and forming judgments based on reason and evidence rather than emotions or prejudice.
It's like Marcus Aurelius is giving us a timeless toolkit for navigating the complexities of a world that's even more chaotic and information-saturated than ancient Rome.
Right.
Yeah, it makes you realize how much these ancient philosophies still resonate today.
Yeah.
They speak to those universal human experiences, challenges, and aspirations.
Absolutely. And ultimately, we have the power to choose our thoughts, our reactions,
Right.
and ultimately our own destinies. And that brings us back to one of the core messages of Book 2, the power of focusing on what we can control. We might not be able to control the information that floods our world, but we can control how we process it,
Right.
how we let it shape our beliefs and influence our actions.
That's a great point. It's about taking responsibility for our inner world, even in the midst of external chaos.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that inner strength, that internal resolve to navigate the world with clarity, purpose, and a commitment to virtue.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Book 2 of Meditations. We've covered so much ground, from accepting what we can't control to aligning our actions with nature. But what stands out to me most is that Stoicism isn't just a set of abstract principles. It's a practical philosophy, a way of life that can help us navigate the challenges of daily life with more grace and resilience.
I couldn't agree more. I encourage everyone listening to experiment with these Stoic insights to see what transformations they might spark within you. Remember, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. So choose your thoughts wisely, cultivate a Stoic mindset, and embark on your own journey toward a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Marcus Aurelius. Stay tuned for more philosophical explorations. Until then, keep seeking wisdom wherever you may find it.